welcome to Jennifer Knatters. I am Jennifer and this is my knitting and nattering video podcast. Thank you for joining me, otherwise I'm just sitting here talking to myself in a room, which, you know, it is apparently a thing I do. Hi! My kids are in the other room. For those of you who don't know me, I have two little girls and two cats, and one cat was in here earlier meowing at me, so we'll see if she comes back in through the window. But my children are in the other room, just over that way, just behind the camera, and I have made up some oobleck for them, so we'll see if that keeps them distracted for a while. If you don't know, oobleck is a non-Newtonian liquid. It's water and cornstarch, and I added a little food coloring to make it fun. And I gave them each their own little tub with a little bit at the bottom. Last time I tried editing out all of their interruptions. I've got the windows open, so if you can hear the traffic, I'm sorry. But yeah, last time I tried editing out most of their interruptions, so hopefully if they don't stay occupied, I can keep working on that. So let's see, what else? I live in the Highlands of Scotland with my husband, and as I mentioned, two kids, two cats. And coronavirus is still a thing. We are eased out of lockdown. I believe Aberdeen is still, they've gone back into a higher form of lockdown, but the rest of us, fingers crossed, are doing all right. Today is the 10th of August, so my children are supposed to go back to school on Wednesday. Today's Monday when I'm recording this. Sorry, I just got a little tickle in my throat. So yeah, hopefully everything stays safe for them to do that. The school has sent out a whole list of things about the precautions they're taking, and given the low rate of coronavirus in Scotland right now that we know of, I feel really good about the precautions they're taking, and I feel those are sufficient. Although we do have a lot more tourists in Scotland these last couple of weeks, so like Aberdeen, there's a chance other places will have to go back into a stronger lockdown. But the school does have plans for a 1 meter distanced, a 2 meter distanced, and as we did last spring, home learning. So yeah, fingers crossed as always with coronavirus. Last time I said I was going to talk about Ravelry a bit at the end, and then I never did. Ravelry, what are you doing here? I mean, honestly, at this point, last time what I would have said was a lot about how it is unacceptable to roll out an update that hurts people, get that feedback, and not act on it. And I was going to talk about how absolutely heartbreaking, like, Ravelry is such a large part of my crafting life. I even put, like, my sewing projects, I make project pages for them on Ravelry. Obviously I can't list them to anything. I put it under weaving, I think, for the type of craft. And at this point, sorry, there was a bird outside. At this point, I'm not even, I don't know, my heart is already broken. I hear a child coming. Let's see if we can keep going. So yeah, Ravelry, what are you doing? I mean, they have issued an apology letter, but the apology letter was mostly like, we're sorry, we're handling it badly, and that people really don't like it, rather than we're sorry we are causing physical harm, strokes, and seizures, which is the actual situation. Yay, I have a cat. Come here. Come say hello. Hey, this is Libby. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, baby. Libby does not like being picked up. No. No. Come have a look. Oh, there's my pretty girl. Yes, this is Libby. She does not settle. She climbs. She takes over. Libby is really my husband's cat. She loves him more than anything in the world, and if he is available as a lap, that's that's where she will be. But when he is not available, he is working right now. We have a detached office in the garden, so he can work from home. And she's knocking, I've got a lot of stuff over here. She's knocking it down. Yeah, Ravelry has broken my heart at this point. It's not even breaking anymore. And I really don't know what to do because I am so heavily invested in the system, and I don't, like, nothing else can do all the things Ravelry can do. And they've burned through all their goodwill and trust and everything that they'd built up. So yeah, that's the thing about Ravelry. I've also been meaning to make what is apparently going to be quarterly, everybody has to suddenly remember to say that Black Lives Matters. They matter. Stop killing Black people. Stop letting Black people die through inattrition. There was a study going around recently about H1N1 and how it had a higher mortality among obese people, fat people like me, and it turned out that the problem was the doctors weren't giving medication. They weren't giving the antivirals to fat people. Two people walk into the hospital, one of them's thin and one of them's fat, and they both say, hey, I've got this list of symptoms that matches the thing going around. And the thin person got antiviral drugs and the fat person didn't, and so the fat person was more likely to die. This is also what happens to Black people in particular. They go to the doctor and they say, you know, assuming they can afford to go to the doctor, because there is, like, they get paid less and they have less intergenerational wealth and all sorts of fun stuff like that, which makes, if you live in the US, it more difficult to see a doctor, to get treated early before things become entrenched. But you go and you say, hey, this is what's going on, and the doctors are like, is it really? Are you just making that up for attention or drugs or whatever it is they think? So yeah, Black Lives Matter, Fat Lives Matter. That's going to be a fun one coming up. And please, 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 in this time of coronavirus, stay home. Wear a mask if you have to go out. Stay away from people. Even if your country has eased restrictions, Scotland has eased restrictions, Aberdeen went hog wild, and now they're back in lockdown. Yeah, please be safe and stop killing Black people. Like, how is that a radical? I don't know. People don't like the phrase Black Lives Matter, I guess, but stop killing Black people. Either deliberately or through negligence. That's not a lot to ask. And I've kind of gotten away from myself. Hi, Jennifer here, knitting. Today's the 10th of August. This is my 52nd episode. And I'm really happy to be here and have people to talk to, even if you're all my imaginary phone friends, my pocket friends. Is that what we call people on the internet? But I am lucky to have pocket friends, especially in a time of coronavirus. I hear yelling from the other room, and I don't entirely know what the yelling is for. It was definitely yelling of a mom come take care of this variety, but we will see if it is something that actually needs me. Knitting. That's what we're here for, right? I have finished objects this week. One of them I am wearing, and this is, I can't even stand up. There's not enough room for me to go forward. There's not enough room for me to go back. Maybe I can tilt. My camera is resting on a bucket, so that was the lip of what you saw. But it is this is a Silver Blossom Tee by Amy Gunderson. And I knit it in KnitPicks CotLin. I believe the color is Harbour. It's hard to find summer yarns, cottons, linens. Ooh, Libby is doing her Libby thing. In colors that I like. Excuse me. I like super saturated jewel tones. now my voice is being all funny. I like super saturated jewel tones, and summer fabrics come in summer colors, like my skin tone. This is about as muted a color as I can really get away with. But it's a lot of pastels and dusky shades, which don't really suit me. So I'm always on the lookout. I've ordered, Libby has also looked up because she can hear these screaming. Hold on. Sorry about that. There was a lot that I have now just deleted because I kept trying to record and they kept interrupting. So I don't entirely know where I was. I think I was saying that I'm trying to find summer fiber yarns in non-summer colors. So I did order some 100% Lithuanian linen from, I had it a second ago. I had it right before I hit record. Midwinter Yarns, thank you. Midwinter Yarns in a peacock color, which hopefully will be as beautiful and super saturated as I want it to be, because I do like the idea of knitting things I can wear year round. My next finished object is one that I haven't shown you in a while because it was languishing while I thought about what to do with the sleeves. And this is my Incunabla Cardigan by Karie Westermann. And this is from This Thing of Paper, the book that she, I don't think it was Kickstarter, I think it was someone else, it might have been Kickstarter. She crowdsourced and wrote a book about the evolution of how writing was distributed, mass produced and distributed. And this is a cropped cardigan, and I went with, these are elbow length sleeves. When last I showed this to you, I had knit the body, I had knit one sleeve, I had done the neckline and the button band, and I believe I was working on the second sleeve. And when I finished the shaping decreases for the second sleeve, my sleeves were two different lengths. Neither length was the length that the schematic suggests the sleeves should be. And I had been thinking about doing full length sleeves and making it kind of a slightly long Spencer. But then, so I had put it aside to think about for a while, and then I was working on other things. And then the weather here, basically June and July together were entirely just cold and dreek and made you wish for autumn rather than enjoy any part of summer. So I pulled it out again, and sorry, I just got an email that popped up on the screen with information about my 3-year-old starting nursery, which, as I mentioned, today is Monday the 10th of August. She's supposed to start nursery on Wednesday the 13th of August, 12th of August, Wednesday the 12th of August, and they are sending out the information today because, as I mentioned in the last podcast, the Highland Council helpfully announced that the moving nurseries are supposed to go from 16 hours a week as a paid place by the government to 30 hours a week as a paid place by the government. And because of the coronavirus and the fact that schools weren't going to be able to build the new facilities they needed and hire the new teachers, Nicola Sturgeon said, don't worry about it. And then she said, if you can do it, do it. And if you can't do it, don't. And the nursery said, hey, we can do it. We worked out the logistics when they were trying to figure out how to keep all the kids socially distanced. And then the next day the government said, you don't need to keep them socially distanced. So we have the space. And then the Highland Council sent out a letter saying, if you were 30 hours last year, because some schools piloted it, then you get to be 30 hours this year, and if not, we're only funding 16 hours. So last week, the school sent out a thing saying, in light of the fact that we are not going to be funded for 30 hours, please submit your revised hour request. So today, they have finally sent out what I hope is the official confirmation of when my 3-year-old will be attending nursery. And that was my phone that now has recognized it had the email as well. So yeah, I'm glad this isn't being thrust on them at the last minute or anything, because that's probably been an absolute nightmare for them to try to sort through everyone's hours and try to get people the hours they want. But yeah, Incunabla, Karie Westermann. I knit it in the recommended yarn, the sample yarn. My husband just came in, so I took a minute to read the email, and it says that my child's key worker will call tomorrow, which is when they go back to work, and explain what's going on. So we'll find out tomorrow what's going on the rest of the time. I feel very lucky, which I think I've mentioned in almost every one of my podcasts since it became the time of coronavirus. My husband and I live a fairly isolated life, which is not lucky in and of itself, but I'm currently a stay-at-home mom. I was hoping, now that it was supposed to be 30 hours, to be able to go back to work. My husband has an office in the garden. He runs his own business. He works from home. Having the kids home just meant we had the kids home. We've got a very large garden out here. We're very big house, big garden. We are very lucky. So the fact that they are having to do this in such a haphazard way, which I understand is entirely beyond their control and probably beyond the control of the council as well. I mean, I'm sure the reason it took them so long to say they weren't going to fund the 16 hours is because they had to look at if they could, or if they could work it out, or, you know, there's so much stuff that I don't see that everybody's having to deal with that I understand. I feel bad for the people who are not situated like we are. I know some people are trying to figure out their work hours, and having everything be up in the air makes that really difficult. We were very lucky that when things got too difficult for balancing childcare and part-time work, that we could afford for me to say, I can't do it right now. We'll wait till she's in nursery and then I can do it. So yeah, chaos. Incunabula. We're still trying to talk about Incunabula. Anyway, I've reached a point in one of my other jumpers that I'm doing as a test knit, which I'll talk about in a minute, where there have been some changes to the pattern and things had gotten out of whack, and they said, please just wait while we revise this. So I caught up to that point beyond which the instructions were not finalized. Again, that's how test knits work. It was not a problem. And I decided I would pull this one out and finish it. So I decided to rip the sleeves back, the shorter of the two sleeves I had knit. I think that's where I was. The shorter of the two sleeves I knit I thought was a good length for the finished one. So I ripped it back, you know, a little over an inch, and then re-knit that length in the ribbing. I have woven in the ends. Oh, I wove in the ends on the cuff. This is a higher up where I joined in a new yarn. That's why that one's, I was going to say, I know I was weaving in the ends while I was working on it. And then I re-knit the rib. I'm just making up which sleeve is which. And then on the other side, I ripped it back to the same number of rows. And then I had 3 extra stitches on this side. So I just did decreases a third of the way around and did the rib. And again, I've I've woven in the ends on the end, but where I changed yarns partially down the sleeve, I haven't done. So I've just got those ends to do. All the other ones I've woven in. I added the buttons, which I cut off another jumper that wound up not being strong enough to support these metal buttons. Let's see if I can get those. They're just cute. The two at the top are the closest. The other ones are all spaced more evenly. And it's got that cute mock cable on either side of the button band and down the back. And I've tried it on. I posted a picture on Instagram when I was halfway up the front doing buttons, and it looks really, really nice. It'll look good with like high-waisted skirts, dresses. Yeah, so I'm very excited to have this. This is the plum colorway. Again, it's the Blacker DK Classic, which has been discontinued. I bought this when they announced it was being discontinued and put it all on sale again. One of the reasons I don't buy a lot of Blacker, I mean some Blacker I've bought a lot of, but this one is just slightly, the camera is actually making it look a bit more pink than it really is. It's a bit grayer, like over here. This is more, maybe like right there is more what the color actually looks like. It's a tiny bit grayer than I would prefer for me. I like very bright, clear colors. But sometimes, like in the autumn, that'll be a good autumn piece. Layering is good. Next up, I have a half-finished object. We're moving on into works in progress. I have finished a sock. This is the Ensnared is the pattern, and that is by Hunter Hammersen, and it's got this kind of trellised pattern at the top. I really like the way the highly variegated looks in this trellis pattern. Unfortunately, because of the way the yarn is, it makes it a bit snugger than the rest of the sock, and I didn't think a sock knit at this gauge. I want to sneeze, hold on. Okay, we did not sneeze. We managed to stifle it. A skill we are all going to need to work on in this time of coronavirus. I didn't think it would fit comfortably if I knit the whole sock in this trellis pattern, which I was highly tempted to do. So I went back to the 3x1 rib, and I kind of even came to like this spiraling thing. And then I came to the heel turn. I think the heel turn looks really cute. And then obviously because of the length, the spiraling micro stripes were slightly off. And then the foot has the ribbing on the top, but not the bottom, and that made the pooling do different things from the entire rest of the sock. Something I am coming to realize about myself that I kind of always suspected, but it is very much becoming a true thing. I do not like pooling. I mean, maybe a little, but not. I mean, I could have lived, like I said, I could have lived with the spiral, but there's no way to do that spiral with a heel turn and certainly a non-ribbed sole of the foot. And my husband looked at these and went, wow, those are so pretty. And I said, do they fit you? They do. These are now his socks. I say his socks, there's only one sock. But I did, because this is my walking around project, I did then prioritize starting the second one, and I went ahead and knit the trellis section on this one in just a slightly bigger, just went up one needle size. I normally knit on 2.0s. I went up to 2.5 just to give it that extra stretch. And then I wound up doing one fewer repeat of the trellis because it was on the larger needle, wound up being much longer than the other one. So I'm just ready to go on the ribbing again on this, and they are now my walking around socks again. And these will be for my husband, and he will be very happy because he loves hand knit socks. And I probably wouldn't have worn them all that much because every time I looked at him I would have gone, don't really like the pooling. Love the colors, love the yarn. For me, I do not like pooling. I don't wear patterns much either. I'm really picky about, you know, that thing where knitters are like, oh, well, I'd knit something for male person, but they don't like bright colors or patterns or blah, 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 blah. In my relationship, my husband's the one who's like, yes, all the colors, all the patterns, throw it all together, all the wild craziness. And I'm like, no, it has to be more neat and orderly, and stripes or tonals, that's what I should stick with in the future. I'll do that one after. So the one I've done most of my knitting on since last we spoke is my test knit, which now has, oh, that's right, I joined the sleeves and the body to knit in the round, and then to make knitting in the round easier, I tucked the sleeves inside out, so they would be inside the body. I'm going flip, 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 flip. This is my, it's a bit washed out, my Abbey Hill pullover. And I am knitting this, ooh, that color is more like what it actually is. I am knitting this in my Cochrane, which is a heavy 4-ply, which is what the pattern calls for. And this is a Ripples Craft, the last socks were Ripples Crafts reliable sock yarn. So this is a yarn that Helen of Ripples Crafts had custom spun for her, and it is slightly rustic. I mean, like in structure it's a rustic yarn, but it is so soft in a way that I can't even, you wouldn't believe me unless you like squished it in your hand. And this is, I think I said the wrong thing last time, crushed blaeberry is the name of this yarn. And I have a sweater quantity of it, but I kind of bought it in drips and drabs. It was an expensive yarn. I think she's out of it, but there are a few skeins still on her website if you just want to pick up one or two in colors that don't suit me particularly. So I picked it up at various times as I could afford it. I initially bought it to knit a shawl, and then I knit the shawl and decided I probably wasn't ever actually going to use it. So I bought more yarn, and then because this is a hand dyed, it was a slightly different color. So I started with the darkest of the shades, and these are tonals, so even the darkest one, like it just had more splodges of the dark, but then some of these light stripes are also from that darkest. There were two really darker, slightly darker skeins. So I started with one of those, and then when I got towards the top of the ribbing, I added in one of the kind of medium ones and was alternating which one goes around. And then when I ran out of the darkest one, I took the other darkest skein and knit the sleeves. And again, after the ribbing, I added in a second medium-ish one. And that actually got me through both sleeves. And then I went back and added the darkest one to finish up in the body. And I've only just recently run out of that darkest yarn again, and then I added in the mediums, so now I'm spiraling to mediums, and then if I run out of one of those, I will add in the kind of the brightest one. And since last we spoke, that's where my stitch marker was. I was still in the cable, so I've knit a whole heck of a lot. These stitch markers are different decrease rates. This heart one is where I'm switching the spiraling of the yarn. And I hear my husband just, hello again. That was my husband going back out to work again. Yes, I was talking about my my pullover, my test knit pullover that I am working on. These stitch markers mark different rates of decrease. So I've got these blue rings are mostly the shoulder shaping. Start round. It's my little cat knits stitch marker. And this one is where I am changing yarns. This one moves around. There are a lot of stitch markers. Those were the numbers where to place. The stitch markers for the decreases were the ones that were wrong. So I'd gotten as far as joining the sleeves to the body, which is hard to show. Aha, it's right here. So I've done a wee bit up, and then they sent out another update saying that those were not placed precisely right, and asking to rip back and move them over a couple of stitches. So I kind of set this aside and was like, well, I want to show it to the podcast before I rip it out. So you can see that I have actually done quite a bit of knitting on this. I've made really good progress since last we spoke, and it has now been languishing for a couple of days, because I finished the Incunabula, I finished the first sock, and I also worked on my mitered corner blanket, which I haven't worked on in a while. Some of these have been done last time I showed you, but I only show you full rows. So we've got this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. I'm not showing you the whole squares anymore. I'm now showing you rectangles. And this one. The new ones I've added since last we spoke are actually this one, this one, this one, the bright green, and the dark red. These three were selected by my 7-year-old to be the next colors. Otherwise I would not have put these two together for a variety of reasons. This rusty, it's not really rusty red, it's just ever so slightly rusty red is the one I wouldn't have used. The other two I think worked out really well, even though I later realized that I've kind of got this blue purple speckle and then blue purple speckle, and they are different blue purple speckles. This one has a lot more teal, this one's darker, but I wouldn't have put them so close to each other either. But as just here, it looks really good. And in the larger scheme of the blanket, it will be just fine. And now every time Christina sees it, she goes, have you added any more colors? Have you added any more colors? I'm like, no, I got it where it wanted. And that's what it was. So now on to acquisitions. And the first thing I have to show you is a new project bag. And this was actually a prize from Laura Bales, I think is her last name. She's the Lonely Knitter, and she's got a podcast, and she started her own website doing hand balms and stitch markers, the heart stitch marker. The little heart stitch marker is one that she made, as well as this is her birthday donut, I think, that she did for her birthday. And I won this in her sock knit along, and it's a prize for the first half of the year in the sock knit along. And the bag is from So Can Joe. And then Laura's website is Crafter Balm. can't tell if that's focusing or not. I will assume it is. It is mirror writing in my thing, so I can't read it. And then with that, she sent me a little tube of her birthday blooms in one of her little hand balms, and it's just a solid hand balm in, this is the smaller size. I like starting with my cuticles. And you just rub it on your hands. Because it's in a solid tube, it doesn't, you don't have to feel like your needle's going through it or the cap coming off and it getting sat on and squishing all out. And she started dyeing yarn now as well. Sorry, we've been interrupted by my little pumpkin. Anyway, hand balm, really good idea in this time of coronavirus of extra washing your hands. Like mine, your hands might be a bit dry. So yeah, nice soft hands. That was a lovely thing to get from Laura, and as I said, it's especially nice because it is a really good size bag, deeply squared off bottom there, and as a larger person knitting larger jumpers, it's nice having a bag I can actually stuff everything into. Normally I keep the unused yarns in my cupboard and take them out as I need them.
I would eat my bread, but I do this so I can smell my thing.
Okay, Catherine just took something out from the compost and she says she held her breath, covered her mouth, so she couldn't smell how stinky it was. But as it gets bigger, you need a bigger bag to put it in. And this one is absolutely perfect for that. And look at those cute little cats. Poor cats. Yep, so that's the first.
Mom, it's on the hanger. It has clippies.
Yeah, are they hanging on the line?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to look at that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can I put it? I'll put it over here so you can look at it, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, let me pull the bag. You sit down. No, leave that there. Sit down. So yeah, that's the first thing I got. And the next thing to show you, my little bag that I made. This is my Bonhomie shawl by Sarah Hatton, which I'm knitting for the Something to Knit Together podcast. I have done almost no work on it, which is why I didn't show it in the works in progress. But I did get this little stay-at-home stitch marker and this little thistle stitch marker progress keeper. Is that focusing? Focus. And those are the Little Bushbaby, which is an Etsy shop. Hey, 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 gentle.
See it.
Gentle.
I see it.
Well, you look with your eyes, not with your hands. And this is the Stay Home, Stay Safe logo, which I really like because, as I've already mentioned, stay home. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. And if you do, wear a mask. But the more you can stay home, the safer everyone will be. So she had a sale in her Etsy shop, so I got these two. And I had to put it on something right away, so I put it on my Something to Knit Together because that seemed the most apropos. And I will work on this again when I have finished my test knit jumper, because I feel a lot of pressure to work on the test knit jumper. If you sign up to do a test knit, and I'm like, I have to do the test knit, I have to do the test knit. And Catherine keeps trying to steal this, so I'm just going to stick it in the zippered pouch of this, and then I'll promptly forget. I put it there until I go looking for something else, and I'll pull it out, and I will be absolutely amazed at how beautiful it is all over again. I just have a little more in the acquisitions. There's been a lot of acquisitions. I have finished knitting things, and then I have felt I should buy more things, I guess. I went a bit Grianaig Creations announced that they were done dyeing yarn for the time. They needed to close the yarn shop, and so discounted their yarn. So I got a sweater quantity of this pink, which came out a little coraler than I was expecting, slightly more Barbie pink. I thought it was a little darker on my screen, but that's fine. So I got 5 skeins for me, 2 skeins for my 3-year-old, and 3 skeins for my 7-year-old.
I love these.
Anyway, they discounted their yarn, so I bought 10 skeins, 5 for me, 3 for my 7-year-old, and 2 for my 3-year-old to knit us all, I'm thinking, love notes. I thought it would be very cute if we had matching love notes. I will knit mine first, and then whatever age they are at the time, when I finish that, I can knit them, excuse me, a size to grow into so that we can wear them together and be super cute. That is, of course, the Tin Can Knits Love Notes. And I just realized I do not have the little dress I sewed for Catherine. I did sew a little dress for her out of jersey, and I bought it when she had just turned 2. She's now 3.5. And I bought it from the Wee Fabric Shop, which is here in Inverness. And it's in Hilton, which is where we went to gymnastics lessons for her before the time of coronavirus. And I figured I could make it, so I bought enough to make her the 2-year-old size, because at the time she was, anyway, that was the one I thought I could make it just a little bit longer for her, do slightly shorter sleeves, and make her this cute little dress. And then she immediately stopped taking naps. Like that day, I think, was the last nap she consistently took in the afternoon. So I only just recently had a chance to knit it. It's my first knit jersey, the knit fabric that I've made. So I did knit her a cute little pink dress, not knit, sewed. I sewed with knit fabric a cute little pink dress that is really darling on her and is really big. And even though I did like 3/4 length sleeves, they're longer than her arms are. Okay. On sewing news, I had previously shown you the first block of my summer sew along quilts, and I did not, I believe, show you the second block. This is infinite pinwheels. It took me a long time to figure out that the purple bit on mine is the infinity symbol, and these are the pinwheels. So it is infinite pinwheels. You're gonna put on some makeup. You got your lip balm, and then this past weekend, not the weekend before, haha, that's where it was, I knit this, I sewed this, the third block.
Mom wants some makeup?
No, thank you. Mummy is sensitive to lip balms.
No,
They trigger asthma attacks for me. I can't breathe. I said no. When Mummy says no, it means no.
Okay.
Thank you for wanting to share. Thank you for respecting my no. So these are my 3 blocks. You can la 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 la. See them kind of together. Can't really show them together. Anyway, I have like 4 shades of teal, 4 shades of purple, 3 shades of pink, and then the gray is my background color. I might have 5 or 6 shades of purple or teal, or I don't really remember. I bought a pack that came with the purples and the teals, and then I bought the pinks online, and I am very happy with them. And I'm using my little quilt roll, which I believe I showed you last time, and then you just put them in and roll them up. I haven't added the tie yet, but that keeps them together, unfolded. Like if you hung them up, then they'd be weighted weird and could stretch out. So that is that with some little extra commentary from my 3-year-old about what she's wearing today. I've kind of squeezed in all the bits about what's going on in my life between the other stuff, because it's mostly trying to get my children ready to go to school and staying home in the time of coronavirus. There's not a lot going on. I have occasionally seen, there's one family in particular that I've seen a couple times both inside and outside, which is following the rules where we are because the coronavirus is very low here, particularly in Scotland. And oh, did you bring me the more little bits?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
The little ones.
Catherine has brought me the flying geese from the third block that I tried the first time. They are supposed to be 4.5 inches square. They are 4.25 inches square, which means they just didn't fit. So that's kind of where I stalled out on working on this before. So I wound up foundation paper piecing them to get them the right size.
Mom,
Do you want to come say hi?
Are you Mama saying of you?
Am my mama saying that to me?
Uh-huh.
Is mama talking to mama?
Are you Mama there?
Oh, is that a new mama?
Uh-huh.
Is that someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a new Catherine? Is that a new Catherine?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, who's silly?
It is.
Yeah.
Look, some hands waving about.
The other Catherine's hands waving about.
Uh-huh.
It's your hands waving about.
And now my new friend is doing
Your
that
new
too.
friend? Is that your new friend in the reflection?
Uh-huh. And I'm doing the same thing as
Yeah.
me.
Do you want to show your new friend your pretty dress?
Mhm.
Oh, is it tucked in your skirt a little? Okay, there we go. Does your new friend have a pretty dress?
Mm-hmm.
Can you sit down again?
My friend have you just too.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
you're gonna say goodbye with me.
Bye.
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 I think that's everything from Northern Scotland for now.
Mom, your friend say bye, and my friend saying goodbye.
Are they saying goodbye too? That's very polite. Should we all say goodbye to each other?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you for watching.